Welcome back, everyone. You've all been giving some serious thought to ancient civilizations, especially their spiritual side, and how it all ties into personal growth.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area.
It is, and let me tell you, the sources you've given for this deep dive are amazing. We've got ancient texts, we've got modern analysis, even some really personal stories that'll make you think.
Oh, I can't wait to dig into those. Those are always the most insightful, when you get those personal stories.
They really are, yeah. And it seems like everyone's talking about this new age of spirituality, but honestly, it can be kind of overwhelming.
It's true. I mean, how do we know what's real and what's not?
Right. So how do we filter out all the noise and find the wisdom, especially if we're trying to use this stuff to grow as people, maybe even transform society? That's what we're going to explore.
I'm excited for this.
Me too. And speaking of transformation, one source had a really interesting idea about how the rise and fall of ancient civilizations might hold lessons for us today.
Oh, that's a good one.
What exactly caught your eye about that?
Well, it starts with something we've all heard about flood myths. I mean, it's not just the story of Noah's Ark.
Right.
You find those stories in so many ancient cultures. It's wild how many civilizations have these flood myths, stories of this huge flood that wiped out almost everyone.
Yeah, it almost feels like a collective memory or maybe even a warning that's been passed down through generations.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one way to look at it for sure. But the source takes it further, saying we have to do more than just see that the stories are similar. Like, the real question is, what lessons can we learn from how those societies fell apart, especially if we're facing some of the same issues today?
So it's not just about the flood itself, it's about what caused those civilizations to crumble in the first place. What did the source say about that?
They really went deep into the Genesis account of the flood. What's interesting is they weren't focused on technology or like the political structure of those times.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they looked at it from a spiritual and moral perspective. The point is, maybe the downfall wasn't just about stuff happening outside, but about what was going on in people's hearts.
Okay, I'm curious now. Give me an example of what you mean.
Well, the source pointed out details in Genesis that most folks miss, like the names in those long genealogies.
Oh yeah, all those names.
Right. Most people just skip over them, but they say those names aren't random. They actually mark big events or turning points in, like, the moral direction humanity was taking.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Like, there's this one name, Peleg. It means division. And it pops up right around the time when people started spreading out all over the earth, like they were abandoning that sense of unity they had before.
So you're saying those names have deeper meanings? They're like a secret code about the spiritual state of humanity back then.
Right, and that's where it gets really relevant to us. The source asks if we see the same patterns in our own society. Like, are we making the same mistakes? Are we so obsessed with progress, with tech and wealth, that we're ignoring our inner development?
That is a huge question, isn't it?
It is, and it makes you think, are we heading towards a similar kind of collapse?
Yeah, it's a bit sobering when you put it that way. Especially since we're so bombarded with information and distractions all the time. It's easy to lose track of what really matters.
It is. It makes you think about what's truly important, you know? And this actually leads to another big theme your sources brought up, this idea of true spiritual knowledge versus just being curious about stuff.
Oh yeah, that really struck a chord with me. The source talked about their own path, how they were super into all the unexplained phenomena, mysteries, and all the exciting stuff, but then realized it wasn't leading to any real change.
That's a really common experience. It's easy to get fascinated by all that.
It is, yeah, but it's like, if it's not changing who we are on the inside, what's the point?
Right, and that's what a lot of spiritual traditions emphasize. True knowledge isn't just about collecting information or having cool experiences. It's about wisdom.
Yeah, it's got to mean something, right? It's got
Yeah.
to change us somehow.
Exactly. It's about applying what we learn to change our hearts and actions for the better.
I like that, yeah, but how do we tell if something's going to be truly transformative? The source seemed pretty skeptical about some of the new age stuff out there.
They were, yeah. Their test for any spiritual info was, does it actually change your soul?
That's a good question to ask.
Yeah.
So it's not about feeling good or having visions, but about a real shift deep down that affects how we live, how we treat people, how we see the world.
That's the heart of it.
I like that. What kind of information did the source think was transformative?
They had an interesting example. Apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch.
Oh, I've heard of that one. Isn't it full of crazy stories about fallen angels and giants? It almost sounds like science fiction.
It does, right. It's very imaginative and super captivating, but the Stuffs pointed out that even with all that fantastical stuff, the main message in the Book of Enoch is about righteousness,
Okay.
about resisting corruption and staying true to your values even when the world around you is going nuts.
So it's not just about being entertained by these ancient texts. It's about the deeper lessons they hold, the moral and spiritual guidance they offer.
Exactly. And that brings up a challenge for all of us. Are we getting lost in the flashy parts of spiritual exploration, or are we really searching for knowledge that'll change us for the better?
It's a good question. It's easy to be drawn to the exciting stuff.
It is.
But if it's not really changing who we are at our core, what's the point?
You got it. It's like filling our minds with information, but not letting it nourish our souls. And that actually brings us to another really interesting theme from your sources, the nature of the creator.
Okay, now we're getting into the deep stuff. I'm ready for this. How do we even begin to understand something that's ultimately beyond our comprehension?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? And the source talked about this profound reverence for the creator, but also acknowledging that the creator is beyond human understanding, beyond names and forms.
It sounds a little paradoxical, doesn't it? Like, how can we connect with something that's beyond our grasp?
It is, yeah. But that paradox is at the core of a lot of mystical traditions.
Makes sense.
And the source even mentioned this concept from Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition called Ein Sof.
Ein Sof.
Yeah, it literally means infinite or without end. It refers to the source of everything, this divine light that's too vast for us to understand.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So, if the creator is beyond our understanding, how can we even begin to connect with it?
Well, Kabbalah uses this beautiful metaphor. Imagine these vessels that are so fragile, they shatter under the intensity of this divine light. Then those sparks of light get scattered all over the world.
Wow.
It's not meant to be taken literally, of course.
Right.
But it's a way of understanding how that divine essence is present in everything.
So are we talking about, like, finding these divine sparks and putting them back together?
It's more about recognizing those sparks within ourselves and all around us. Like every act of kindness, every moment of genuine connection, every step we take to overcome our limitations, it's all like liberating a spark of that divine light.
So it's not about seeking something outside ourselves. It's about seeing the divine that's already within us and letting it shine through our actions.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
And the source makes a really cool connection to personal growth here. They say that every time we overcome a flaw, every time we face a shadow part of ourselves and choose to act with more love and compassion, it's like we're revealing a piece of that divine light that was always there.
So even our struggles, our imperfections, they can be opportunities for spiritual growth.
Absolutely. And it's not about striving for some kind of impossible perfection. The source talks about how important humility is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Recognizing that even the greatest prophets, even Moses, only glimpsed the Creator's glory.
Wow.
It's about approaching spirituality with awe and wonder, knowing that we're always learning, always growing, always finding new depths within ourselves.
That's a really beautiful way to think about it. It takes the pressure off. You know, it's not about reaching some final destination, but about the journey itself, about constantly unfolding our potential.
That's it. And this ties into the source's critique of practices like channeling.
Oh yeah, where people believe they can be possessed or controlled by some divine being.
Right. They see that as violating free will. The source argues that real spiritual connection comes from purifying our own souls and aligning our actions with higher principles.
So it's not about surrendering our will to some external force,
Yeah.
but about taking responsibility for our choices, our thoughts, and our actions.
Exactly. It's about realizing we have the power to shape our reality, to either create harmony or disharmony in the world. And that brings us to a pretty intense part of your sources where the author is worried about the potential for harm from false spiritual teachings.
Yeah, they seemed really passionate about that.
They did. They even shared a story about someone getting angry while cooking and accidentally cutting themselves.
Ouch.
It's almost like they're saying our emotions can have real consequences in the physical world.
Yeah, like a physical manifestation of their inner state.
Right. And they talk about angels not as winged beings, but as forces of energy, both positive and negative. And we're constantly interacting with them.
So our actions create ripples in the spiritual realm. And those ripples can be either harmonious or disruptive.
Exactly. And that leads to their emphasis on even those small everyday choices. being mindful and intentional in every part of life. They even mention eating kosher food as a way to maintain spiritual purity.
So they're saying every decision, even what we eat, has a spiritual dimension.
It's not about turning every action into a ritual. It's about being aware that we're always shaping our souls through our thoughts, words, and deeds.
It makes you think twice about that extra piece of cake, doesn't it?
Maybe, but more importantly, it encourages us to think about the intention behind our actions. What energy are we putting out into the world? Are we contributing to harmony or to negativity?
That's a really good question to ask ourselves.
It is, and it reminds me of another point the source made. True saints, the people who really embody spiritual wisdom, they don't brag about mystical experiences or supernatural powers. They focus on living ethically, facing their own flaws, and encouraging others to do the same.
Yeah, it's about walking the talk, isn't it? It's about actually living those spiritual principles in our daily lives, in how we treat others, how we handle challenges, the choices we make every day.
That's it. So true spiritual growth isn't about having some crazy experience or becoming a guru on a mountaintop. It's about the hard work of self-transformation, making those small, conscious choices that lead to a life of integrity and purpose.
Exactly. And the source even suggests that this kind of inner change is crucial not just for us, but for society as a whole.
So you're saying individual transformation can lead to collective transformation?
That seems to be the underlying message. They compare the collapse of ancient civilizations to the stuff we're dealing with today.
Suggesting that maybe we're going through a similar time of purification, of intense upheaval that's forcing us to confront our collective shadows.
That's a pretty heavy thought.
It is, but if individual transformation can spread and create positive change on a larger scale, then maybe there's hope for us yet.
It's a hopeful thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it connects with this idea that we're not just isolated individuals. We're all interconnected threads in this big tapestry of life.
That's a great way to put it.
So what we do, how we think, how we feel, it all matters. It all has an impact.
Absolutely. And the source seems to be saying this is super important now, with all the confusion and conflicting information out there, especially when it comes to spiritual stuff.
Yeah, they were really big on discernment,
Yeah,
being able to tell truth from falsehood.
they were.
But how do we develop that inner compass, especially in a world that's constantly throwing different ideas and beliefs at us?
They didn't have a simple answer, but they stressed the importance of both inner work and really paying attention.
To what's actually happening around us.
Yeah, and to what's happening inside us. It's about developing our own wisdom, learning to listen to that quiet voice within, but also looking at the results of someone's teachings.
Seeing if they actually walk the walk.
Exactly. Do their actions match their words? Do they embody the qualities they're talking about?
So it's not about blindly following any one teacher or tradition, but about developing our own critical thinking skills.
Right, our own ability to evaluate information and make good choices.
I like that.
And they highlighted looking for consistency and integrity. Do people actually live by what they preach? Do their actions reflect their words? Do they embody the things they're teaching?
It's like saying, show me, don't just tell me.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that applies not just to spiritual teachers, but also to our own journey of growth. Are we living by the principles we believe in? Are we making a positive difference?
Those are tough questions to ask ourselves.
They are, but they're essential if we want to move beyond superficial spirituality and into genuine transformation.
And speaking of transformation, there's one more thing from your sources that I'm really curious about, this whole idea of a new age.
Mhm.
What does it actually mean? Everyone's talking about it, but it's such a vague term.
It is, and it can mean different things to different people. But the source seemed to be pointing to something bigger than just a trendy spiritual movement.
Oh, okay.
They see it as a potential turning point in history,
Oh.
a time with huge challenges, but also amazing opportunities.
Okay, so it's more than just crystals and incense. What exactly are they suggesting?
They talk about a bunch of factors that are pushing us towards a shift in consciousness, like becoming more aware of how interconnected we are, more and more people seeking spiritual truth, global issues that are forcing us to work together, old systems crumbling.
It sounds like a lot is happening all at once.
It does, right. It's like we're at a crossroads, a transition between one era and the next.
So we're not just talking about personal transformation, but a collective shift in how we understand ourselves and the world.
That seems to be what they're getting at. But they're also clear that this transition won't be easy. They talk about intense challenges, getting rid of old patterns, facing our collective shadows.
It almost sounds like humanity's going through some kind of initiation, like we're being tested and pushed to evolve.
That's a powerful way to put it, and the source stresses that we need to be ready for this transformation.
Like how? What do we need to do?
They talk about cultivating the qualities that will help us get through tough times. Things like courage, resilience, compassion, a deep connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so being strong on the inside.
Yeah, and having a solid spiritual foundation. And they also talked about discernment, being able to tell the difference between real spiritual teachings and those that might lead us astray, especially in times of chaos and uncertainty.
Yeah, because when things are tough, it's easy to fall for fear-based thinking, right?
Yeah.
To those easy answers that sound good but don't really solve the problem.
Exactly. And they say that true discernment comes from both inner wisdom and carefully observing what's going on around us.
So learning to trust our gut, but also paying attention to whether people's actions match their words.
That's it. And they highlight the importance of staying grounded, not getting swept away by fantastical ideas or experiences, but integrating our spiritual insights into everyday life.
Making choices that reflect our values.
Exactly. It's not about escaping reality, but about engaging with it more fully, more consciously, and with more compassion. And they suggest that true spiritual growth involves making choices that reflect our highest values, helping others, and working towards a fairer and more sustainable world.
Okay, so this new age, if it's real, isn't just about personal enlightenment. It's about creating a better world for everyone.
That's the vision they seem to be pointing towards. A world where we've moved past ego-driven conflict, where we understand our interconnectedness and prioritize compassion and cooperation.
It's a beautiful vision, but it also seems pretty daunting. Like, how do we even start to create that kind of world, especially with all the challenges we're facing?
They don't offer a simple solution, but they emphasize the power of individual transformation. They suggest that as more people awaken to their true nature, their innate goodness, their potential for love and wisdom, it creates a ripple effect.
Like a chain reaction of positive change.
Right. That shift spreads outward, creating momentum toward positive change on a larger scale.
So it's like the butterfly effect, but on a spiritual level. Each act of kindness, each moment of awareness, each choice to align with our values contributes to a shift in consciousness.
Exactly. And they suggest we all have a role to play in this unfolding new age, no matter how small it might seem.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix everything. It's about taking responsibility for our own growth and contributing to the collective good in whatever way we can.
That's the message they seem to be conveying. A message of empowerment, hope, and the transformative potential that lies within each of us.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone from ancient myths to personal stories, from the nature of the Creator to the challenges of spiritual growth. And now this whole idea of a new age and what it could mean for humanity. It's a lot to take in.
It is. And it's important to remember that this is just the beginning. These sources have started a conversation, and it's up to each of us to continue exploring.
Yeah, it's not about giving you all the answers, but about sparking your own curiosity and your own search for meaning.
Right. Who knows what amazing insights and discoveries await you as you keep digging deeper.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, there's one more crucial point from the source we need to talk about. And it's about the challenges, the potential pitfalls on this path of spiritual growth.
Oh yeah, they were very honest about the fact that it's not always easy. In fact, they suggest that the deeper we go into ourselves, the more likely we are to encounter our shadows, our deepest fears, and unresolved traumas.
That makes sense. The more you try to shine a light on your inner world, the more you realize how much darkness there is to confront.
Exactly. But they emphasize that those difficult experiences, those dark nights of the soul, they're not meant to break us. They're chances to grow, to purify ourselves, to transform.
Like going through fire to become stronger and tougher.
That's a good analogy. So how do we prepare for those inevitable challenges? What does the source say?
What can we do?
They talk about the importance of building a strong spiritual foundation, cultivating qualities that will keep us steady during those rough patches, like having a strong anchor to hold us in place during a storm.
Okay, I like that analogy. What are some of those anchor qualities?
They mention things like faith, courage, discipline, humility, compassion, and a deep connection to something greater than ourselves. These things help us stay grounded when life throws us curveballs.
It's like building a fortress inside ourselves that can withstand the challenges that come with spiritual growth.
Exactly. And they also emphasize the importance of having a supportive spiritual community.
Oh yeah, people who get it.
Yeah, people who can offer guidance, encouragement, and accountability. because it's hard to do this work alone, you know?
It is. We need each other.
Absolutely. And they talk about the power of prayer, meditation, and other practices that help us cultivate inner peace and connect with a source of strength beyond ourselves.
So it's about having both inner strength and a support system to help us navigate the tough parts of spiritual growth.
Exactly. And they emphasize that it's not about avoiding those challenges altogether. That's impossible. It's about approaching them with courage and a willingness to learn and grow from them.
Not seeking out suffering, but realizing that those experiences are a part of life
Yeah,
and that we can use them as fuel for transformation.
you got it. And they even suggest that those who've been through the toughest trials often become the most compassionate, wise, and inspiring people. Like they've been through the fire and come out with the strength that can only come from facing those depths.
That reminds me of that Rumi quote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you."
I love that quote.
Our pain, our suffering, can be a doorway to a deeper understanding, a greater connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Beautiful way to put it. And it speaks to the transformative power of embracing those challenges, of using them as opportunities for growth and healing.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. It's amazing how all these seemingly different ideas connect, how they weave together into this tapestry of meaning and purpose. We've explored ancient civilizations, spiritual discernment, the nature of the Creator, the importance of ethical living, the challenges of spiritual growth, and this whole idea of a new age and what it might mean for humanity.
It has been quite a journey, and it's fascinating to see how these seemingly separate topics are all connected. Like threads in a tapestry, they create this rich picture of meaning and purpose.
It's like we've been on a treasure hunt, finding these hidden gems of wisdom and insight.
And the real treasure is the transformation that happens within us as we engage with these ideas, as we let them challenge us, expand our awareness, and inspire us to live more meaningful lives.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? What will you take away from this deep dive?
Maybe you'll be inspired to explore some of these ancient texts or spiritual traditions for yourself. Maybe you'll feel a renewed commitment to your own personal growth. Or maybe you'll just be left with a sense of awe and wonder at the mysteries of life and the vastness of the cosmos.
Whatever your takeaway, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, fired up your imagination, and left you feeling empowered to start your own unique spiritual journey. Remember, the path is always unfolding, and the journey is just as important as the destination. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep growing. And until next time, happy diving.
It's not about surrendering our will to some external force. It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape our reality to either create harmony or disharmony in the world.
Wow, that's powerful. And that brings us to a pretty intense section in your sources, where the author's concerned about the potential for harm from false spiritual teachings.
Yeah, they're really worried about that.
Yeah, they seemed really passionate about this. They even shared a story about someone getting angry while cooking and accidentally cutting themselves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's almost like they're saying our emotions can have actual physical consequences.
It's interesting, isn't it? The source seems to be suggesting that our inner state, our thoughts and emotions can manifest in the outer world.
So like our inner world shaping our outer experience.
Yeah, exactly. And they talk about angels, but not as winged beings, more like energetic forces, both positive and negative, that we're always interacting with.
So our actions are creating ripples in the spiritual realm, and those ripples can either be harmonious or disruptive.
That's a great way to put it. And this leads to their focus on how important even seemingly small choices are.
Oh.
Being mindful and deliberate in every aspect of life. They even talk about keeping kosher as a way to maintain spiritual purity.
So every decision we make, either what we eat, has a spiritual dimension to it.
Right, it's not about making every single action a big ritual, but more about cultivating this awareness that we're constantly shaping our souls through our thoughts, words, and actions.
Makes you think twice about that extra slice of cake, doesn't it?
Maybe. But more seriously, it invites us to consider the intention behind our actions, the energy we're putting out into the world. Are we adding to the good, or are we adding to the chaos and negativity?
That's a powerful question. And it reminds me of something else the source said. True saints, the people who really embody spiritual wisdom, they don't go around bragging about mystical experiences or supernatural powers.
Right, it's not about that.
They focus on living ethically, confronting their own shortcomings, and inspiring others to do the same.
It's about walking the talk, isn't it? It's about living those spiritual principles in our daily lives. How we treat others, how we face challenges, the choices we make every day.
So true spiritual growth isn't about seeking out some dramatic experience or becoming a guru on a mountaintop. It's about the down-to-earth work of self-transformation, making those small, conscious choices that build a life of integrity and purpose.
That's a great way to sum it up. And the source suggests that this kind of inner transformation is essential not only for our own well-being, but also for society as a whole.
So individual change can lead to collective change.
That seems to be the core idea. They draw a parallel between those ancient civilizations collapsing and the challenges we face today. They even suggest that we might be going through a similar period of purification, a kind of intense shakeup that's forcing us to face our collective shadows.
That's a pretty intense thought.
Yeah.
But if changing ourselves can have a ripple effect and create positive change on a larger scale, then maybe there's hope for us.
It is a hopeful thought. And it aligns with the idea that we're not just individuals, we're all interconnected threads in this fabric of life.
Like we're all part of something bigger.
Exactly. What we do, how we think, how we feel, it all matters. It has an impact.
It makes you feel both responsible and empowered at the same time.
It does, doesn't it? And the source seems to be saying this is especially crucial now when there's so much confusion and contradicting information out there,
Yeah.
especially about spiritual things.
Yeah, they were really big on discernment, being able to separate truth from falsehood.
Right, because it's easy to get lost.
It is.
Huh.
But how do we actually develop that inner compass that helps us see clearly? Especially when the world's constantly bombarding us with different ideas and beliefs.
They don't give a simple answer, but they do stress the importance of both inner work and careful observation.
So looking inward and outward.
Yeah, it's about tuning in to our own inner wisdom, learning to trust that quiet voice inside, but also paying attention to what we see in the world.
Matching words with actions.
Exactly. Does someone's life reflect what they teach? Are their actions consistent with their words?
So it's not about blindly following any one teacher or tradition,
Yeah.
but about honing our critical thinking skills.
Right. Our own ability to evaluate information and make wise choices.
So we're not just taking things at face value, we're really examining them.
Exactly. And they emphasized looking for consistency and integrity. Does someone walk their talk? Do they embody the qualities they're teaching?
It's like that saying, show me, don't just tell me.
Exactly. And this isn't just for judging spiritual teachers, it's also for our own self-growth. Are we actually living by the principles we value? Are we making a positive impact on the world?
Those are some deep questions to ask ourselves.
They are, but they're essential if we want to go beyond superficial spirituality and into real transformation. And speaking of transformation, there's one more element from your sources that I'm really curious to explore, this whole concept of a new age. What might it actually mean?
Yeah, it feels like everyone's talking about it, but it's such a fuzzy term.
It is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it can mean different things to different people, but the source seems to be pointing to something deeper than just a passing spiritual fad.
Okay, so it's more significant than that.
They see it as a possible turning point in human history, a time of immense challenges, but also incredible possibilities.
Okay, so we're not just talking crystals and incense here. What are they suggesting?
They point to several factors that are pushing us towards a shift in consciousness, like the growing awareness of our interconnectedness, the rise in people searching for spiritual truth, the global problems we're facing, the collapse of old systems and structures. It's like we're at this crucial juncture, a point of transition between one era and the next.
So it's not just personal transformation, but a collective shift in how we see ourselves in the world.
That seems to be what they're getting at, but they're also very clear that this transition won't be easy or comfortable. They talk about intense challenges, a purging of old patterns, a confrontation with our collective shadows.
It almost sounds like we're going through some kind of collective initiation. Humanity is being tested and pushed to evolve.
That's a great way to describe it, and the source really emphasizes how important it is to be prepared for this transformation, to cultivate the qualities that will help us navigate those difficult times.
Yeah. Okay, so what qualities are we talking about?
Things like courage, resilience, compassion, and a deep connection to something greater than ourselves.
So basically inner strength and a sense of purpose.
Exactly. And they also talked about discernment, being able to distinguish between genuine spiritual teachings and those that could lead us astray, especially during times of upheaval and uncertainty.
Because when things are chaotic, it's easy to fall for ideas that offer easy answers, but might not actually be true.
That's right. And they suggest that true discernment comes from a combination of inner wisdom and careful observation.
So trusting our intuition, but also paying attention to the evidence.
Exactly. And they highlight the importance of staying grounded, not getting carried away by fantastical notions or mystical experiences, but integrating our spiritual insights into our everyday lives.
Living our spirituality, not just thinking about it.
Right, and they suggest that true spiritual growth involves making choices that align with our highest values, contributing to the well-being of others, and working towards a more just and sustainable world.
So this new age, if it's really happening, isn't just about personal enlightenment. It's about creating a better world for everyone.
That seems to be the vision they're pointing towards. A world where we've moved beyond ego-driven conflict, where we recognize our interconnectedness, where we prioritize compassion and cooperation.
A beautiful vision, but it also feels kind of overwhelming. Like, yeah, how do we even begin to create that kind of world with all the problems we're facing?
They don't offer a simple solution, but they do stress the power of individual change. They suggest that as more people awaken to their true nature, to their innate goodness, to their capacity for love and wisdom, it creates a ripple effect.
So like a chain reaction of positive energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That shift spreads outward, building momentum toward positive change on a larger scale.
So it's like the butterfly effect, but on a spiritual level. Every act of kindness, every moment of awareness, every choice to live by our values, it all contributes to a shift in consciousness.
That's a great way to put it. And they suggest that we all have a part to play in this unfolding new age, no matter how small our contribution might seem.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to fix everything. It's about taking responsibility for our own growth and doing what we can to make the world a better place.
Exactly. That's the message they seem to be sending. A message of empowerment, of hope, of the transformative potential that lies within each of us.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've explored ancient myths and personal stories, the nature of the Creator and the challenges of spiritual growth, and now this idea of a new age and its implications for all of humanity. It's a lot to process.
It is. And it's crucial to remember that this is just a starting point. These sources have given us a lot to think about, and it's up to each of us to keep exploring these ideas.
Yeah, it's not about giving you all the answers, but about sparking your own curiosity and your own search for meaning.
Right. Who knows what incredible insights and discoveries await you as you continue delving into these topics.
But before we wrap up, there's one more important point from the source that we need to address. And it's about the challenges, the potential pitfalls on this path of spiritual growth.
Yes, they were very honest about the fact that this path isn't always smooth sailing. In fact, they suggest that the deeper we go into ourselves, the more likely we are to encounter our own shadows, our deepest fears and unresolved traumas.
Makes sense. The more you shine a light on your inner world, the more you see what's been hiding in the shadows.
Yeah, and it can be kind of scary facing those parts of ourselves. But the source emphasizes that those tough times, those, dark nights of the soul, they're not there to destroy us.
Oh, I see.
They're actually opportunities, like to grow, to purify, to transform. It's like we have to walk through the fire to come out stronger.
To really test ourselves. So how do we prepare for those challenges, though? I mean, they're bound to come up, right?
Right.
What does the source suggest?
Well, they talk about building a strong spiritual foundation.
Okay, yeah.
Cultivating qualities that act as anchors when things get rough.
I like that, an anchor. So what are some of those qualities? What are the things we can do to prepare?
They mention faith, courage, discipline, and humility, too.
Yeah.
And compassion, and a deep connection to something bigger than ourselves. All those things help us stay grounded.
Yeah, it's like having that solid ground to stand on when everything around you is shaking.
Exactly. And they also talk about how important it is to have a supportive spiritual community.
Oh, yeah?
People who get it,
Yeah, to lift you up.
Yeah, people who can offer guidance, encouragement, and just keep you accountable. Because it's tough to do this kind of work all alone.
It is, yeah. We need each other.
We do. And they also talk about the power of prayer, meditation, and other spiritual practices.
Okay.
Things that can help us find that inner peace and connect with a source of strength that's beyond our own limitations.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Mhm.
Inner strength. But also having that support system to help us when things get tough on our spiritual journey.
Right. And they're clear that it's not about trying to avoid those challenges altogether.
Right.
I mean, that's impossible.
Life is going to happen.
Exactly. It's about facing them with courage and using them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Not seeking out suffering, but realizing that it's gonna happen.
Exactly. It's part of being human.
And we can use it to make ourselves stronger.
Yeah. They even say that the people who have gone through the hardest stuff often end up being the most compassionate, the wisest, the ones who really inspire others. It's like they've been refined by the fire, They've come out with a strength that only comes from facing those depths.
Yeah, they have that depth to them.
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of that Rumi quote. The wound is the place where the light enters you.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's like our pain, our struggles, they can become a doorway to a deeper understanding, a greater connection with something much bigger than ourselves.
It's a beautiful way to see it, and it really speaks to the transformative power of those challenges, how we can use them to grow and heal.
This whole deep dive has been incredible. We've talked about everything from ancient myths to personal stories, from understanding the Creator to navigating the ups and downs of spiritual growth, and then this whole idea of a new age, what it could mean for humanity. It's a lot to process.
It is. And it's important to remember that this is really just the beginning. You know, these sources, they've sparked a conversation, and it's up to each of us to keep exploring these ideas.
Yeah, to keep asking those questions.
Right. It's not about giving you all the answers, but about igniting that spark of curiosity and inspiring you to search for your own meaning.
To walk your own path.
Exactly. Who knows what incredible insights and discoveries are waiting out there for you as you keep digging deeper into these topics.
It's exciting to think about.
It is.
Well, this has been an absolutely fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground today. It's amazing how these seemingly different ideas all weave together into this rich tapestry of meaning and purpose.
It really is. And I think the real treasure here is the transformation that happens within us as we engage with these ideas.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, as we let them challenge our assumptions, expand our awareness, and inspire us to live lives that are more meaningful and fulfilling.
So, to all of you listening out there, what threads of insight will you carry with you from this deep dive? What resonated with you? What new questions have been sparked in your mind?
Maybe you'll feel drawn to explore some of those ancient texts or spiritual traditions we talked about. Perhaps you'll feel a renewed commitment to your own journey of growth and transformation. Or maybe you'll simply walk away with a sense of awe and wonder at the mysteries of life and the vastness of the universe.
Whatever your takeaway, we hope this deep dive has ignited your curiosity, fired up your imagination, and left you feeling empowered to embark on your own unique spiritual journey. And remember, the path unfolds as you walk it. The journey itself is just as important as the destination. So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep growing, and until next time, happy diving.